Okay, so hi everybody. So welcome to the next episode. So this episode we're going to talk about the first goal I set, which was to get a job by the end of graduating. So my kind of strategy for getting jobs is one, go on all the jobs websites, make an account, make sure your account is really good on the jobs websites. Also LinkedIn, make sure it's whatever you put in a jobs website, it doesn't contradict whatever you have on your LinkedIn, and make sure your LinkedIn is done in full. Make sure your CV is the same, doesn't contradict anything on the other websites, and make sure, I don't know, if you've got a bad Facebook, that your Facebook's blocked. If you don't got a bad Facebook, that it's open, because people will probably look you up, and then it'll be either good or bad depending on what you think. And other things, I don't know, like, so say for example I have a YouTube channel and I want to put on my CV. So what I put it in is, as in my interests, I put on that I'm a YouTube developer, that I developed content for both my own channel and for other people's channels, but I don't put the link for the YouTube channel in, and I'll only give it to them after I have an interview, because the thing is, they might disagree with some of my opinions, and I'd prefer to meet them in person first, to make sure they get the right opinion of me and not just the opinion of me from my videos. And same for any other social media. Like, I'd almost make sure your Facebook is private, because they'll probably look you up, just in case, because you don't know what people think of people when you don't meet them. So make sure you meet someone first. They get a much better understanding of what you're like than through your social media. Other things that would be useful is, I'm searching for jobs for after I graduate. So there's obviously two types of jobs that most people get after they graduate. There are graduate jobs, and graduate jobs are jobs that they just need someone for that specific time. So they come up more randomly throughout the year, usually more towards the end of the year, where they're just looking for people to do a certain type of job. They've like lost engineers and they want a graduate to come and do the engineer. Or there's graduate programs, and graduate programs are more long term. They're like planned, structured programs where you kind of move up in the company or you get training in the company. And in my opinion, I like the way the graduate programs sound more than the graduate job, because the graduate job kind of sounds like you're getting put in for a job, and it kind of sounds like there's not as much of a you're guaranteed to move up kind of thing. But the graduate program sounds like, at least if you get the graduate program, you're going to get the training that you need to do the job more than what you would have for the graduate job. But I'd say they're probably both the same. It's just I like the way graduate program sounds more. But apply to both. The real problem in Ireland at the moment for people leaving college is, a lot more people are leaving college, and a lot more of them have higher degrees. So if they have higher degrees, it's harder to get jobs because you're competing with all these people with higher qualifications. So apply for as many as possible, because if you think you're going to be interested in it at all, apply for it, because you don't really know if you're going to get a job at the end in this country at the moment. And also apply for jobs outside the country. Don't limit yourself to Ireland if you're comfortable moving anyways, because you're more likely to get a job in a different country than you are in Ireland at the moment, because there's just too many of us on this little island. Another thing about like not restricting yourself is, obviously only apply to jobs that you still can do with your degree and that you'd like to do. Don't get yourself in a situation where you really don't want to do something. And for me, for example, like, I put extra effort into the jobs that I really want to apply for, and I put less effort into jobs that I am interested in but don't know if I want to apply for. So like the programs, all the graduate programs, I put a lot of effort into applying for because I'm really interested in them. The few graduate jobs I've applied for, I haven't put as much effort into, and there's usually isn't as much effort required for a graduate job, because there's usually not like tests and stuff there's just like a CV and an interview and stuff, so there's usually not as much work. But for graduate programs, they usually have like aptitude tests and things like that. A tip for aptitude tests is just go up online and look up, I don't know, it depends on what kind of test you're getting, an aptitude test or a psychometric test. Just look them up online and look up some examples before you do one, because you kind of want to know like what to be prepared for. Always have a pen and pencil with you, maybe a calculator if there's going to be a lot of maths. They're usually good tips. So you can see Ivy's paw up in the corner up here. She's sitting on top of the camera, so that's why I'm gonna move her toe. She's just asleep, so sorry about that. So yeah, so that's how I'd approach the job search. Keep a track of every CV you send. So I would recommend for every job you alter your CV to suit the job, and also your cover letter if you're going to have to write cover letters. So do that. Also, for the sake of those like online psychometric tests for companies, or where you have to fill in a box in a company where you have to fill in a story, if you kind of write up like a template one of that, it's easier to do them because you can just copy paste in when you're doing them. So for example, I had a test recently and it asked like what computer programs do I use a lot, and all that kind of stuff, what am I familiar with. So a long time ago I made a list of all the programs I had used before. So what I did was I basically just copied that list, pasted it in, and then put an explanation above and below and added in any other programs I've used since. So that was really helpful to me. So I'd recommend that for anyone else. Especially if you're kind of slow at typing, pasting it in will save you a lot of time and it'll allow you to get a better kind of story across. So yeah, common questions are like, what kind of software have you used before? Like how would you put benefit to the company? What's the reason you want to apply to the company? Now, the benefit to the company one and the reason you want to apply, they're actually fishing you there to see what kind of person you are. So like, say for example, how would you add value to the company? They want to see that you can explain what your best attributes are that would give to the company, and why you were interested in applying for the company. But more, it's about like what you're like if you've leadership qualities, teamwork. Are you a boring person? Are you a person who does lots of stuff? Are you a person who somewhere in the middle? Another thing is, in these like tests, aptitude tests and stuff, there could be like puzzles and stuff, so it's a good idea to kind of get your head in the orientation of there's going to be like puzzles and things. Sometimes if there's a lot of tests, I had a job application which had 5 tests in it recently, and one of those tests, like a few of those tests were like simple stuff. So like they give you a bunch of spreadsheets and you had to try and collect the data off of them, things like that, which is simple enough. But then there's other things like where they throw you like a creativity thing where you have to like draw something, and you have to give it a name and all this kind of stuff. So a good idea would be to like look up example ones of all the different types of tests, so then when you get into the test, even though it might be called one of the other tests, it mightn't be actually a test, it might be a different type of test. So a good look around, just so you get comfortable. They're going to be different than what you saw when you look around, but they'll be similar. So it's a good idea to just have a look around so you get like a big bucket of stuff to take stuff from. Other things that might be interesting is like jobs fairs. Jobs fairs are probably the place I've been approached the most for like continuing the interviewing process and all this kind of stuff. So sometimes if you go to a job fair with your CV and everything, they might actually give you an interview on the spot, and then they'll call you back with like a proper interview. Another thing is you have to be prepared for the fact you might naturally have a job at the end of the year. So always keep your options open to continue your studies. So for example, I'm in a master's now, so I'm going to go to the postgraduate fair, if there's any of them on, just to make sure like I keep my options open, so I at the end I'm not like worried about what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do whatever happens. So if I get a job, that would be my way preferred thing. But if I end up getting a postgraduate, like a postdoc or something, PhD to do, and it's like subsidized, I'll do that instead. There's no point in stopping your life because you didn't get a job. You still have to continue your life, you know? So try and continue it in a way you would like to, as in what's the next most beneficial thing to your life. So that's that. So that's my like kind of strategy for how I'd approach searching for jobs. And make sure you keep all your CVs in like a folder with the different names of the different jobs you applied for, just so when you're coming up to, if you got an interview, when you're coming up to the interview, you can review all the stuff you sent into that company, so you don't like get caught out by saying something silly and you didn't like research it before. An example would be like if you had a software that you knew how to use, make sure you know how to use it before the interview, because you might have used it like 3 or 4 years ago. It mightn't have been fresh in your brain, so it's a good idea to like refresh it in your brain so you can at least talk about it if they ask you about it. Like, you don't need to be like fluent, because they'll understand that you did it 3 or 4 years ago if you tell them, but you need to like understand what's the like key point of that software or whatever, and what would it be useful for compared to something else. So yeah, so that's why I'd recommend too, especially if you've got an interview, is review everything you put in and make sure you know how to talk about everything you put in. That's your CV, your cover letter, your LinkedIn, your Facebook if it's not private, your other social medias if they're not private, if you had a test, everything you put in on the test, especially if it was like your opinion, put that in. And like, it's okay if you can't get your hands back on some of the test information, but just be as prepared as possible going into an interview. And that's it. And another thing is, some places actually have like mock interview type things. Like they might bring you, like, so say if you have like a group interview or something, there might be like a mock group interview maybe 2 or 3 months beforehand, that you could go to and get like a feel of what that company is going to be like. So that would, one, help you decide if you would like that company, and two, prepare you for your interview if you do like that company. So it's a good idea to go to them. It's a good experience as well. In Ireland, Accenture has something like that, and a couple other companies have like mock interviews. I think Dell has mock interviews, but anyways, there's a few companies that do that, so that might be a good idea as well. Okay, so that's my opinion on how to approach the job search, and good luck. See you in the next one.